Hello, everyone. This is Reverend Bill, and it's Monday night about 9:30 ish Eastern Time. And tonight, I think I'm going to review a movie I saw last night, Challengers, which I guess is still still out. I get it on Prime. You could pay for it on Prime, but I think it's still in the theaters if you wanted to see it. It stars uh, Zendaya, who plays Tashi Donaldson, who was in the movie, a tennis player who was forced to retire due to an injury, and her husband, Art Donaldson, played by Mike Faist, Faist, Feist. I don't know how to pronounce that last name, unfortunately. And Patrick Zweg, who is played by Josh O'Connor. Those are the main players. This is a movie directed by, all these names are going to kill me here. Luca Guadagnino, I don't know, whatever. He's obviously Italian, I think. Now he was known for, from at least my experiences watching movies. I know him from a movie called Suspira, that came out in 2018, and that was a remake. I actually saw the original too, both about a haunted ballet uh, school. I want to say in France, maybe. I think it was in France. Anyway, it was okay. Both were okay. Neither one was great. Anyway, on to Challengers. This is a movie. Um, I'll give you an outline. It's a movie. It's basically about tennis players. Art is a former, I guess, tennis champion. And the beginning of the movie, he's coming back from something. I think it's an injury because he is getting therapy. They didn't make it real clear what he's coming back from, but he was getting therapy and back rubs and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's safe to assume he had some kind of an injury he was recovering from, and he was trying to do a comeback for the tennis Open. And his wife, played by Zendaya, was actually his coach, I guess, too, and actually kind of a manager as well. They were kind of a team, and she's there, kind of like coaching him, getting him ready for the tennis Open. Um, she was a former, I guess you could call her prodigy, who suffered an injury and could no longer play. So now she's relegated to being a coach. During this time, he obviously looks like he's not quite ready for prime time. So she recommends that he steps down in competition before the Open and does some challenger, which is, I guess, some lower level of championship for the not rated prime time players. While they're there, they run into an old friend of his, and the three of them actually had kind of a past. And the movie does hop around, basically covering the past relationship, the future relationship. So that's pretty much about it. And then at the end, there's a tennis tournament. Um, so that's about it. Yeah. So really, there's not much to this movie, and that's one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of it. It's basically going over the past and the present, and I don't think there's anything really spectacular here. There's nothing really bad about the movie. It just seems kind of muddled and sluggish. Um, when I think about a movie, I think about, at least when I was in school, they taught you that the way to do a story is to have a character at the beginning that was flawed, and he's to face challenges or obstacles, and in overcoming these obstacles, he's to gain something, knowledge, wisdom, what have you, that helps him in the future. And at the last part of the story, he's risen above his obstacle and he's a different person, and kind of like, and I know I keep on doing this with the Star Wars movie, but in the first movie, I still won't call it New Hope. In the first movie, Luke played this townie kid who was just helping his parents, around, uh, I don't know, the whatever they had, some kind of farm or whatever he was doing there. And he went on an adventure, fighting Darth Vader and learning through Obi-Wan. At the end, he was a whole different character. He wasn't that naive little boy anymore. That's really how it's done. And I think Star Wars did a lot of things right, especially that first movie. This one, I don't know. I mean, it's not quite just a day in the life, but it's not from it, far from it. Um, so there's no real time when, at least not in my opinion, where people come across something where when they cross that bridge, they'll never go back. I didn't see the people at the end of the movie much different than I saw them at the beginning. So there's that. Zendaya is always a pleasure to watch. I was very happy to see her. The other two players, they were fine. Their roles really didn't call for them to be much more than just a couple of goofball friends, and they did that fine. There's nothing here that would earn anyone an Oscar. It was very calm and nothing challenging here in the least. As a matter of fact, one of the things it reminded me of, for those of you who are around my age who remembers when drive-ins were king, especially in the Northeast, I know there's still some around. There were some movies, you'd go with your friends on a Friday or Saturday night and you get, maybe a case of beer or a date, and you go to the drive-ins, and if just hanging with your friends, you grab some beers and go walking around and watch the movie, and or if you're on a date, you do whatever people do on dates while you're watching the movie. And at the end of it, the next day, people say, "Oh, how was the movie?" That was okay. I mean, I don't really remember much, and that's kind of where I see this movie. It's very innocuous for the most part when it comes to anything like that. It's very forgettable, and I wouldn't mind forgetting it. The one thing I don't like is there's a lot of time hopping. Now, I know I don't like time hopping anyway, but for the most part, when you see a movie and then it says 6 weeks before, okay, that's all right. But I don't like it, but it's okay. I don't like getting thrown back and then having to work up to the present point in time. It's not a movie tool that I like very much. This movie is ridiculous. I don't know how many times it hopped around. If someone put a gun to my head and made me guess, I would say seven time jumps. Could be more, could be less. I wouldn't think it would be much less. I would say seven. And then it's not hard to follow. I mean, I'm not a blithering idiot, but it definitely interrupts the flow when you got to, kind of gauge, oh, what part of this? Okay, yeah, I got it. A lot of it's done too through the length of Zendaya's hair. When it's long, it's, I don't know, years ago or wherever it was. And in present day, it's short. They probably use that as a vehicle to kind of make it easier for people to know where it was. But it's not that hard to follow. But it's annoying is what I find it to be. Another thing I want to mention is that the director is gay, and that's very evident in the movie. There's a lot of homosexuality in it. To be honest with you, if I wasn't committed to reviewing this movie for you, I would have turned it off. It's to me, I understand the world has changed, supposedly, but I haven't changed. Jesus Christ certainly hasn't changed. And I just don't like all these gay themes being forced on us. I mean, it's way too much. There's a gym scene where there's full male nudity, and it seems to go on for 5 to 10 minutes, completely uncalled for. There are other scenes too that are referencing homosexuality throughout the movie. There's a scene where the two tennis players are kissing. Didn't care for that much. I could have done without it. So I just got to mention that. Do not let your children watch this unless you're okay with that kind of stuff. It's rated R anyway, as you can see, but definitely not something I would want my children to watch if they were still young. Just a warning there. Another thing is this movie was like 2 hours and 10 minutes. I could definitely cut off. I could short this movie to about 90 minutes. I really could, no doubt about it, and it would be a better movie for it. There was, well, first of all, there was that gym scene with all the nude men walking around full frontal, which I didn't really understand why was included at all, but it certainly didn't need all the time it was given. I certainly would start cutting into that. And there's an awful lot of people looking at each other, especially in tennis tournaments. There it's an important point. So everyone's doing the player A is looking at player B, and they're both looking at Zendaya, and she's looking at them, and they're sweating. And just get out the scissors, clip, 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 all that out of there. I don't need to see people staring at each other and sweating. It's almost like they went out of their way to make this a long movie, but this is not a 2 hours and 10-minute movie, in my opinion. 90 minutes, maybe 100 minutes tops, but somebody needs to get out the clippers and start cutting away this movie. Anyway, that's another observation. Another thing is, I didn't like any of these characters. I find them all despicable. Now, sometimes, rarely, by the way, rarely, that can work, like Seinfeld. That was unique. That was a unique show. All these guys you would not want to be your next door neighbors, but together they actually made it work, and it was funny and amusing, and it was great. It was a timepiece that's not easy to do. These are three characters I would not leave my wallet around. I find them all pretty despicable. I find them all selfish. Didn't really care about what was going to happen to them. Didn't really care at the end. So yeah, and I found that kind of a tough thing too, because as I mentioned before, if you don't care about the characters, you're not emotionally invested in the movie. And I was certainly not emotionally invested in what happened to these characters. The point, I don't even know why he was recovering from surgery. I could have gone back and looked why he was, what is he recovering from? Was it an injury? I thought it was. But to be honest with you, there's nothing about that character that made me feel inclined to go back and research, why he was going to rehab or why he was coming back. Just didn't matter to me. An interesting thing that I did find was that towards the end, the director actually brought up a situation that I was kind of interested in. And that was, I did not know how the movie was going to end. And that's kind of a rare thing. I usually have some sense of where I think the movie's going to go. It's seldom do I sit back. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, but I always think I know where the movie's going to go, or I sense where the movie's going to go. With about 15 minutes left, I was really impressed. I was like, wow, I've got no idea where this is going to go. The problem was that he didn't deliver. For those of you who are Monty Python fans, and I love me a Monty Python skit, they were infamous, and even they admitted it. They didn't know how to end their skits. They would have some really funny skit, and then they would be like, how do we end this? And then a big foot would come down and squash them or something. They're notorious for having this very, very good skit, and then just kind of sitting around going, now what? I felt the same thing with this. I think that he set this up, and I'm sitting back going, how are they ever going to resolve this whole thing? And the answer is that they don't, in my opinion. It's like they fumbled on the 1 yard line. They finally got me, after over 2 hours, involved in something where I really wanted to kind of see what was going to happen. And I felt really dissatisfied. So that was another thing. So all in all, I'm not really thrilled without this movie. It didn't have any, it wasn't terrible. I've seen far, far, far worse. I guess the worst crime about this film is it was like drinking a glass of water. It really didn't do much. I wasted over 2 hours of my life sitting watching something that, I don't know, could have been an hour on TV maybe. Actually, probably could now thinking about it. So anyway, that's my take on it. I think IMDb gave it a 7.1. Geez, that's too generous. I would give it, I'd probably give it a weak 6. Again, if it's okay. It doesn't do much for me. If it's kind of something maybe you want to play in the background of a party. So it's really not something I would want to pay money for. So that's about it. So that's my review of Challengers. If you like this, please like, share, and subscribe. You can always drop me a note if you've got any comments, if you agree or disagree. And that'll do it tonight from Reverend Bill. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you again. Bye.